Sorry. Okay.
Oh, good morning, everybody. It's Thursday morning, January 25th, and this is the Senate Agricultural Committee. And this morning, we're going to hear from the secretary and his staff in regards to their budget proposals that we'll be working on and hope for fun. And so we'll introduce ourselves, Mr. Secretary, and then we'll get started.
Brian Collmore, representing the Rutland District.
Irene Runner, Chittenden North, including Fairfax.
Brian Campion, Bennington County.
Richie Weston, Senator Westons from Memorial County, who should be joining us anytime. And Bobby Starr from Orleans County. I don't do Essex. Welcome, Secretary, and would you like to introduce your
Sure.
guests?
Sure. Well, good morning, everyone. Anson Tebbets with the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, joined by our Operations Director, Nicole Dubuque, who's here. And also our financial director, Amy Husser, is here. So I'm here to present our proposed budget. But just the first quick note about where we are. We're extremely grateful for the investments, some of them historic, that we made last year for our food and farm economy. We have deployed millions of dollars over the last year, grants that have gone to flood recovery, dairy farmers, processors, small businesses, and all those that are working land. More is on the way over the next few months. Millions will go to our maple producers, fruit and vegetable farmers, some of those that want to diversify their operations, dairy farmers who want to improve their operation on the farm, and also processors, and also a commitment to make more local meat available to our region. So all those dollars, both state and federal, will be deployed over the next few months. Pretty exciting for all of us. And all these investments will help our farmers adapt in a very rugged economy. So what is in this year's proposed spending plan? We all know we have revenues have slowed. Federal money is drying up, and we have enormous state issues that need attention. Housing, public safety, flood recovery. All those investments are not in our direct budget. If we make progress in those areas, it certainly will help agriculture, the food economy, and of course, our rural areas we're all focused on. A few highlights before we get to the details. We are not asking for any new employees this year. We were grateful we added 3 positions last year, adding 2 meat inspectors who've been hired and 1 in weights and measures. And that person's been hired as well. And this year, which is a significant change over the last few budget cycles, we're not asking for any one-time appropriations in our proposed budget. One-time money, of course, we all know is scarce this session. Much of it already earmarked for critical issues around housing and flood recovery. And our focus will be on finishing, what we started and staying focused on our mission. So with your permission, maybe we can go into a little bit of the details. So first slide is the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. Next slide. And I want to read our mission statement. We want to always keep focused on that. Facilitate, support, and encourage the growth and viability of agriculture while protecting the working landscape, human health, animal health, plant health, consumers, and the environment. So it's a pretty big mission, but we're focused on it. A couple of details and the highlights. It's a 413,000 roughly general fund increase over our current plan. We have 7 exempt positions and 143 classified positions at the end of agriculture.
Does that equal that 413 equal the 3.5% or whatever? The 3% recommend.
Yeah. Let's go over the appropriations as a review. We have the administration. We have food safety and consumer protection, which is our biggest division. Agriculture development, or work on economic issues. Public health and agriculture resource management, like we call it farm. We have the Vail Lab, partnership between us and DNR. And then we have ag water quality. So those are the divisions and the 6 appropriations. And then we have other areas of focus. You know, we have a lot of, believe it or not, regulation. I think about 80% of what we do is regulatory, whether it's inspecting farms for sanitation for dairy or cheese plants. We have pesticide review, consumer protection, gas pumps, getting into the EV world a little bit now as well, animal health, and then produce safety. So we have a lot of areas that we're protecting the public programs. You're going to see, most of our pressure points are going to be fee for space, insurance. Those are going to be some of the pressure points that, as an agency, we don't have a lot of control over, but there are pressure points in our budget which should be reflected.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Secretary, I see vision on there, and I believe that's the same, I don't know if it's software or whatever it is, that we use to put in our own expenses. And I would have thought, not knowing any better, that maybe that expense would be from IT and it would be statewide. I'm seeing this and I'm thinking that it's divvied up into each agency to kind of take a piece of that. Is that?
That's correct.
Correct.
And it's one of those that we, it's a formula that they put together, and I think it's based on network employees, et cetera. Much the way we do for our buildings. It's a formula that, and we don't have, as an agency, we don't have a lot of control over it. If we ask for extra work, we're very cautious about that because we may be charged for it. So we're really cautious about asking for extra, help. But I don't, if you want to elaborate on that at all, but it's
Yeah,
one of those-
Vision's just one of the many internal service fees that we have
Yeah.
to pay for.
Okay, I appreciate.
And that's our financial system.
And BGS, when you rent your buildings, if it's inhabitable, do you still pay rent?
Yeah, well, so just go over our properties that we do have. So we have 116 across the street, which is our, I call that the main office. And then we have the lab in Randolph.
Yep.
And our third one is we have a lease agreement for many of our employees that work out of the Chittenden County, Franklin County, Addison County area. So we lease something on Harvest Lane in Williston.
Yeah.
And we've downsized that a couple of times, but it's mostly for inspectors, engineers, those that are working in the farm community in that region. And next to us, one of our neighbors is USDA and RCS. It's right next to us in the building. It's right in the sort of the box store world over there.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, it's a good handy location.
yeah. So.
The building across the street, are all your employees back now?
We have some that are hybrid, they come and go. We have some that have four, they come in for a full day and have meetings. I would say it's probably not as, there's not as many in the building as there were in the past because of COVID. Just one update, our basement did flood, and we took it actually easy of all the state buildings. There's still repairs going on. We don't have an elevator yet. Parts are very hard to come by with elevators, so we don't have elevator operating now. And we've adapted to all that. But the licensing, business office, all that is there 5 days a week, and we all come and go and so forth. But it's certainly not as crowded as it was back in the day when, I guess the formula was, everyone reports to work at 5 days a week at some location.
Yeah.
We have hotel spaces where people come and go and so forth.
But the rent stays.
So it stays the same.
Stays.
The only thing that would change that is like if we had actually closed in a building, if it's like, say we did Wilson. With that, and I think that because of the flood and because of COVID, I know they buildings and general services is doing an evaluation of a lot of the space. That's out there.
Now, did DMV get flooded as well, or?
I think they did, but they're back, right?
Mhm.
They're back. Yeah,
They're back.
yeah. We were probably out 2 months at a building closed.
Yeah,
They had to do the mold and try everything out. The basement has not been rehabbed yet. They pulled a lot of stuff out. We did not lose a lot of really valuable, that Monday, we put a lot of stuff we thought may be at risk. We moved it up. Because we thought the flood we didn't think it was gonna come, but it did. Thank goodness we did, but we saved a lot of our sort of key stuff, but we lost supplies, some animal health stuff, But I think the goal is now we're not gonna put anything back in the basement again. That's gonna be one of the things we're fix the back, there's a bathroom downstairs, get the elevator fixed, and just leave it vacant because we don't wanna go through what we went through this summer.
Yeah, it won't be bad until you have to close the first floor.
Yeah, if it gets to the first floor, then I think we're all in trouble. It'd be really, that'd be a heck of a flood.
Once Hardwick sends all their dirt and gravel and stuff down the river, it's gonna fill the river up, it's gotta go somewhere, right?
Now, boy, we never thought we'd get to the basement this time. Oh my gosh, it did. Monday afternoon.
Yeah, that, how far up did it go?
Well, if you've been in our basement, there's a bathroom down there, and it went up to the third or fourth stair. We went
I
up
think so.
third or fourth stair coming out of the basement.
Oh,
See, it was completely underwater. Completely underwater. And we spent a couple days working with folks pulling everything out. It was extraordinary. You never realize, I'm sure you realize being a home, which you accumulate. But we accumulated a lot of stuff in the basement over the years.
wow.
So now it can be saved because it was underwater. So, but the valuable stuff, we were thankful we got out of there.
Yeah.
Maybe just break down the budget from general funds. We're at 22% general funds, special funds 37%, federal funds 38%. And I just highlight the federal funds most of that goes to agriculture development, and the Dairy Innovation Center has significant federal funds. That's why that one may be a little higher. But that goes through there and then the transfer fund. So you see the breakdown, the 3.5% increase. Cetera there. If we go to the next one. And here are some of the fixed costs, some of the things, pressure points for us. Retirement. The family medical leave insurance premium, and I think that is new.
Okay.
The childcare, internal services, et cetera. Health insurance is another driver. And then you get down into the Innovation Center, we continue to get federal funds there.
Now, the child care contribution, is that through the state program?
Yes.
So,
This is the first year of that. Right. And then there's some other programs below. The new costs you see highlighted below is the medical leave insurance and childcare, two new ones. Some areas of decrease, Innovation Center, just how money's gonna flow with that. The other one is, we've always enjoyed it. We believe in the 2+2 program, but you're well aware of the restructuring that's going on at Vermont State University. Essentially, they do not have an ag program right now. And they're in the midst of reinventing that. So part of this is we're pausing putting money into that scholarship program until we get a clear plan from.
we have a bunch of money sitting there. Right?
Yes,
Yes.
sorry for the record, Full Butte, Agency of Ag, we do have the previous year's appropriation that is there. So we haven't asked to have, an additional budget for fiscal year 2025 until the restructure happens, because we do have that money, which I know Senator Starr is, in the 2+2 meeting, so we have talked about that, yes.
So, and the reserve will still be sitting there, but this year you must have used that somewhere else, right?
Well, we used it to basically prepare our budget. We didn't take it and move it anywhere, but it met our, met our goals.
So the line item will still be sitting there.
Yeah, it's just not gonna appropriate any money into the program this year. We also have a reduction in the Natural Resources Conservation Council. As you recall, you appropriated a big line item last year that increased their base budget. And we think we need to trim that to about $112,000, but the base will remain at $500,000, correct? In that program.
But they're losing
112 out of their base program. We do have significant grants with them through some of our other programs. And I'm not sure the total close to
Over 5 million.
Close to
current
5 million.
active grants.
active grants that we do have with the council but that's not their operational. This pocket is their sort of their operational base budget. But we have about $5 million that we're working with the council, active grants, and some in the pipeline as well, that work with water quality.
So they're gonna lose 112 of the
112.
base or
Yes.
one ton.
And they'll remain at $500,000. And I think they went from like 100,000 to 612,000 last year.
12,
They were paid,
2
it
years.
was, yeah, they went from like 100,000 base to about 612,000 last year.
Yeah, we raised.
You raised the base up.
But it didn't just happen. I mean, that was a
No, and I want to say,
fight to get that.
it's a wonderful partner for us. We work well with them. Our water quality division works well with them. We believe in what they're doing. And this is just a case of just don't have the money we did last year. That's one of the tough choices that, we had to make. But we do have significant investments through grants with them, help them with their mission, our mission.
See from working with those people, that somebody has to spend all their day sitting there writing grants and, while they're writing grants, they aren't out doing projects and things, and it just makes it hard. In some districts, I know do a lot more maybe than others. But it's a constant battle for them.
Yeah, it is.
And to retain help, and they don't know if, what's gonna happen from one year to the next.
And we've had a couple of meetings. I know they're doing a good plan because it's kind of a unique situation of they're kind of an independent body, but their budget goes through us. So I know they're doing an assessment if there's some other way that they didn't have to be sort of at the whims of our budget, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? They're kind of like, they're in ours, but they're a separate body that's funded through the Agency of Ag budget. And this has been in store for a very long time. But I know I'm talking with Jill, their director, had a couple of conversations. She says they're looking at, is there another way that they can have funding that's a little more stable, so they're not, as you mentioned, chasing these grants all the time.
Yeah. Because, if you talk with farmers, they like working with them better than working with you.
No, they are, they're creative and they do incredible work, and it's technical assistance that sometimes we can't provide that they get with the districts.
And what they really like working A&R or DEC, once they get involved, that, farmers don't like to see those people coming at all. You folks are good. But the conservation districts, if you talk to a farmer, they're excellent.
Yeah.
Because they don't come out with any big sticks or threatens, and that they also have money to help get the projects done. But anyways, so we'll deal with that.
If we go to the next slide, just basically breaks down the positions. As I mentioned, we're not asking for any new positions this year, but this is a review of things that get in this current spending plan. So you approved the two food safety specialists and essentially meat inspectors because of the growth of that. And then we just moved a couple of positions that currently have moved them into administration because now they're not just serving ag dev division, but serving all of our divisions. So we thought it'd be better to put them in the administration pocket. So that's just a moving of employees, not asking for new ones, to just move them to a different division. Some of our budget items that you're familiar with, these are all, except the one we talked about, level funded, fair stipend, farm to plate. Mentioned the council being trimmed, farm to school, local food grants, and working lands, staying at $1 million base budget.
So, the bears, they didn't get any increase.
They did last year, correct? I think.
Yeah, one time,
One time, it's been,
not,
Oh,
not base budget.
okay.
yeah, the trend over the last couple of budget cycles because of the health of the economy and the federal funding, there's been more one-time appropriations that have gone through our.
So
Our budget.
3.5%, that you were given, you must have gotten 3.5% on those funds right there, but they had to get shifted somewhere else.
We
For
couldn't,
benefit costs.
Yeah.
As well.
How
we couldn't increase them because of some of our fixed costs that are kind of eating up.
How much went to pay the step increases?
That's something.
I'll have to look through.
I suspect that most of your, there aren't many initiatives, it's all mostly.
Yeah, and that's a big change in this budget this year. There are no new initiatives, either one-time monies or increases in base. And that's being driven by essentially covering the cost of insurance, pay act, fee for service, fee for space.
It's all gone in the personnel.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at. We talked
I
about,
might just correct you that, the last 4 years are in, and what you're more back into is, if I look at the last 40 years that we've been around, most budgets were between 2% and 5%, and that's the norm. And we're back to normal.
I think that's very accurate. It's certainly, post-pandemic, it's a different budget cycle, a different world that we've been in. And much of that is, we're happy to be deploying those dollars now out of the field. It's millions of dollars, both federal and state, that we have not had for agriculture, but that you have had over just, I guess, 4 years, right? Do you want to go through the crosswalk with us? We can do that. We mentioned the changing.
If there's any major changes there,
Yeah, not really.
it would be,
You see there's the salary and wages. I'll go there. Next slide. So that's the movement of those just to the other division. We talked about the 2+2 scholarship.
I have met with the new president and I have a follow-up meeting with him as well to talk about agriculture. And we're gonna, Glenn, who's the director of the ag program, used to work for us. He was the director of our lab. So he's now charged with reinventing the ag program.
I think we had
Yeah.
him, yeah,
You probably had Glenn in, yeah.
yeah.
So we have a follow-up meeting with him, so hopefully at some point, we'll have something to share with you and they'll have something to share with us about what they're thinking about.
It's pretty bad that, you know, the state of Vermont's the largest dairy state in New England. As far as ag land, ag production, milk production and all that. And, we don't even have a agricultural college, you might say. You know, the little folks that come over to UVM, the ag program, bring their horses and, you know, they aren't gonna be our farmers in the future. They're gonna be the vets but they're gonna be off in Timbuktu. And, you know, I don't know what went on down at VTC, but somebody certainly dropped the ball or something happened and, you know, a lot of our farmers today, people that work for, well, even here in Montpelier, graduated from the ag school in VTC, and I don't know, I just hope they, you know, get something going down there because it's,
Where are they in this process?
hard.
Where are they in that process? They were in here last year and
Well, we had them this year, remember the young guy
Yeah.
from VTC.
I think there's still students at UVM that haven't graduated yet that were the last.
This
but I mean, in the process of getting to the
Getting
new
back,
degree program, where are we?
not till 25, I thought.
Yeah, I think we're in the midst of, they're designing that program. They've had a lot of work that's been done behind the scenes, you know, with the vision and what they do, but now, you know, they gotta figure out what programs they're going to offer, classes they're going to offer, keep it working. And, you know, we need farmers and they need students, so we gotta somehow get together.
I know that there's the transition money in for the state colleges in this year's budget, and it's one time to help with that transition. I'd like to make sure that at least a piece of that is going towards that program to make sure that we get to the place, we get to 25 and it's there.
Well, it doesn't shape up. What should happen is we should have contracts with the University of New Hampshire, over at Collinsville, and still have the program where they would go there for 2 years and then switch back to UVM for the last 2 years. I mean, you know, I'm getting pretty tired of the same old excuse, not directed at you, Anson, or the agency, but at VTC or for letting that all fall apart. You know, a problem doesn't just drop on the table. It festers and festers and festers, and it finally gets to the table. Well, you know, it's up to the boss to know if that is coming, you know, and straighten it out before it hits you between the eyes, you say. And
So I believe and I think it is one-time bridge funding. I think it's 5 million that's in.
It's 5 million that's in there. I wanna make sure that,
Yeah, 217,000 of that should get back to the 2+2.
I wanna make sure that, and I wanna make sure that we're on track to get to the place that I think the chair would like to get to.
I think we all,
yeah, it's doing
I think it's a great program.
And I'm happy to, I mean, we're engaged with them, and I think I'll ramp up my engagement to get them to a better place.
That
That's
would
what
be
we-
most.
I think I can certainly help with that. And I know they're committed to it. It's just a matter of may need to accelerate, right?
And it's crazy that a lot of these kids that were in 2+2 came right off the farm. And it's sad that they have to go to New Hampshire, of all places, to get an education to come back home. And if they're way off, that means they can't drive home for the weekend to help if on their home farm. It just, but anyway, yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
We want push on.
Well-
Cause it isn't gonna float well if, it's gonna be a bird that won't fly if they don't shape up and get going. On, as far as this 2+2.
Moving on to food safety, consumer protection. Just standard increases of salary and benefits, no real changes in that division. So this is
Agricultural development.
yeah, agriculture development division. It's been an incredibly busy division for the last few years because of great to have a little more money to get out into the landscape. So you see some of the communications administration, we talked about that. Fee for space, we had an increase at the VE. That's one, it's, fixed costs. So pretty standard stuff.
I've noticed that you folks have picked up the pace a little bit on getting people to increase their or rent space at the Big E and in that stuff. I heard an ad, or read about an ad or something recently about filling that up and last year when I visited the Big E, our building, I don't know if you all get down, I know Hanson does, but it's one of the best, or I think it is the best building on the avenue. And during the pandemic, the first year, it looked pretty skimpy in there, but it did in all the buildings. But last year, I thought it come back good and and we must sell a lot of product.
Yeah, no, it's an economic driver for those 17 days that people, and we have contracts, some of them are 3-year contracts. Some people maybe come day and don't do the full 17 days, they meant to do 3 days and sell.
So do you have Florida?
We have floaters, we have floater space. And we added a couple of food trucks to the back,
Yeah.
which really increased the, it was kind of a habit and pace, that part of it. Very popular. And I think, was it about 2 million goes through in 17 days, something like on average?
They won't know the exact figure.
Right.
Yeah,
Trevor will.
and then we get, the state gets a
Yeah.
return because the managers of it and all the work behind the scenes that's done, we get a 12%, is it 12 or 11? 12% return on everything that's sold. Just something to keep in mind, it will eventually come to you, but we are working on renovating the building. We have a big plan for the 100th anniversary, which is 2029.
Coming right up.
So the architects are working on issues and, we'll probably start in institutions, committees, working on
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
I've never been,
we've never been,
never been in,
you gotta go.
I would say, and I just say that to the chair, that would be, summer would be a nice trip down there for the whole committee.
You won't get lost. It's all you gotta do is get to 91 and go south. And We don't have to take a bus to get you.
I didn't say take the
You come
bus.
down, you can pick me up on the way.
Yeah, you got a nice car and we don't fit there. I'm volunteering you to
Well,
drive.
I think you all should come for Vermont Day. And
Yeah, that's the best.
And then we'll fill you up and give you this whole experience.
I think that would be fun.
That's a Saturday, it's the middle Saturday in October,
Yeah,
and we have a little
Thursday,
presentation.
right?
Yeah,
And I think, you know, a little presentation about what the ideas are for fixing the building, because this committee should weigh
When do
in.
you must get paid to go? It's a working day then.
I'll give up my pay and give it to you to be able to afford to drive down.
No, that's a good idea. Maybe, that Vermont Day it's a largest attendance day.
What day
it's
is
the middle Saturday,
Saturday?
so it's Saturday, and we have a nice
I think
presentation.
that would be fun.
10 o'clock in the morning, we open up the building. The building's open 10 to 9, right? Yeah, 10 to 9. So
So
it's like,
the day, the Vermont Day, they open it at 9, so.
yeah, and that would be, yeah, we have a little, the vendors, the businesses, a little breakfast. It's a really nice time where you can talk with them, get an understanding what they're doing, and they're not, it's not 6,000 people on top of you as you're going through the building.
Yeah.
Well, it would be wonderful for you all to come down for it. It's
Yeah.
if the weather's nice, it's really a beautiful day. And we have entertainment that comes on Vermont Day. We have a stage, we have a couple positions.
Sometimes the Secretary of Ag shows up. Sometimes the governor
The
shows up.
governor has gone many times, and he only I think he was in Canada this year and couldn't go. It was a
Yeah.
conflict, but he loves that building and committed to it. And there's some really interesting stories. We have a really Bergamot Moore, which is for them, they make leather bags. And they, I want to say 3 years ago, sort of banked on that 17 days. They're going to sell a lot of these handmade leather, post and really good local company. And from that revenue, they were able to purchase a building in downtown Williamstown for their business. They have a retail operation now, and they've moved where they make the bags to downtown. But they work their tails off. So the economic development that can really be significant. And others have told us that people go home and maybe hop on the computer and buy products from that.
Well,
Yeah.
then, Vermont flannel always used to be, I think it's Vermont flannel up in the front. Now they've got a booth out
Yeah.
on the main grounds, so, they got their start right there in the ag building, so.
It's and our mission is to be authentic.
Yeah.
Make sure it's really Vermont. So, well, good. So let's go to. I think we're over to, yeah, this one, yeah. Working lands. So working lands, I would say the significant part of this is that we're not proposing any one-time dollars this year. We did raise the base to $1 million. For years, it was I think like 340,000, but we got it up to $1 million. So that's pretty much, but the impact of this is wonderful. There's a independent board that we manage it, but there's a board that's appointed that reviews the proposals. And this includes forestry as well, so it's just not the farm side of it, there's some forestry projects that go through it. And we track the impact through that. Some of the things they're working their way through, we've got the small farm diversification grant that's out now, and we're taking applications for that. Coming soon is the produce and meat grant that you approved. And then we got 1.6 million with that one. And then the maple one is closed, and I think I spoke to it last time I was here. The $550,000 with the request. So there's a lot of dollars that are making their way through agricultural development. We also spent the summer, we got the organic money out the door, and also the flood recovery grants, about $3.6 million. That crew was really working overtime to get those dollars out into the field as well.
We have discussed the balance, the open balance.
Yeah.
On the, organic mulch. And, we haven't come to the conclusion on that yet, but hopefully there's some question, and we're gonna talk with Steve
Okay.
after, this.
Yeah.
But there's some question on what amount we need to cover.
Yeah.
The legitimate operations, to clean that up.
In my understanding, it's in the House Budget Adjustment Act now. There's
So they did.
they did
all
put it
that.
in. So it will make your way to,
That's-
your side.
Usually they just put the language in and please fix organic dairy issue.
So you'll see, I think, and I haven't seen the final, but my understanding is talking to people in the House and our people that it is an adjustment
That's
act, so
yeah.
it may make your life a little easier against you.
Yeah, that will be, one less thing in,
So you can see the popularity of the working lands.
earlier when we were
Hmm.
talking about these. Said you'd hired 2 more, meat
Yes.
inspectors and, did you want to give us a little update on how that's all going?
Yeah, no, it's, we wanted to, part of that was, there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of expansion. And we didn't want to be the ones holding up that expansion if we couldn't inspect. To get a meat inspector trained and ready to go, it's probably about a 6-month process. It's probably the most regulated thing you do is to say thank you, it's the meat inspectors. So, and at times we cover for the federal folks as well, so our program there, so, the federal inspector can't get you a plan, we help with that, so that's a partnership we have, which comes with our costs, that's one of the reasons we're able to get the 2 new ones, is it's not all on state expenses, it's 60/40? What's the breakdown of those?
60/40.
60/40 and 60/40, so
The
that's,
CIS program.
yeah, so it's a good partnership we have, so. And, I can give you an update, I was at the Ferrisford plant, a couple weeks ago, major expansion there. Really nice, modern equipment that's going in there, Kinglands helped a little bit with that. There's some federal dollars that went into that plant. But they're going to increase their, I think I'm talking with Carl Cushing, who's the manager there. He thought they would do 3 times as much.
3 times.
As much work. And it was fascinating. They just had 12 employees. They were able to keep processing without having to close the plant to make the renovations, which was good. So that's going through. And then some of the equipment is really, the workers sit on a platform now, and if they have to get to the carcass, they can move the platform up. They're not moving, they're not touching, they're not, grabbing the carcass as much as they used to. So it's on the body, it's a lot easier. So I think it's a much better facility for that. So we're encouraged by that, and we've got others that are, wanting to do more. There's talk of helping the small ruminants. That's been one of the issues that we had with the lamb and
Real
so.
water in there.
So these inspectors are really helping make sure they're not, and you've heard about you've been dealing with chicken, no, I guess there'll be a chicken parks bill coming your way from the House side. But we're okay with that one. That one seems like it's going through for that. That's not so much related to.
So the small animals, are they getting scheduled in better than they do?
Yeah, I think-
Or-
And if you can increase the capacity, the key part is there's some main accounts that people need. So that, people that are their businesses, their private label they're selling. And then there's the backyard people that want to have their own animals. And that's important too, because we want as many animals on the land as we can.
Any complaints on farmers doing, or people doing their own?
No, I've not heard. There's a gentleman, that is building a mobile unit that may help with some of this on-farm slaughter issues. And that would be, it's basically a souped-up pickup truck. And it would be able to go from farm to farm. And that would be inspected, and my understanding is that we could then go to a custom place to wrap it. So it may address some of the smaller farms that are trying to sell, whether it's Lamb.
Half a beef or.
Yeah.
or-
something like that. So he's building that now. And we think that may be deployed this summer. But he's been working with our team to make sure it meets all the standards for inspection. So
So I think, Brian, you've been with us from the beginning on that.
Yeah.
Backyard slaughter thing. And, it was pretty rough there. for
Well,
a
yeah.
couple of years.
Federal intersection was a challenge.
Yeah. And so that's, going pretty good.
our meat division is pretty encouraged by that. And it may solve some of the issues that we have with that particular issue that may be, and allow people to get into some new markets that have been done to get into. So we're hopeful.
So I just talk a little, if you can, about supply and demand. Are we where we need to be with that? Or are there more slaughter facilities needed? How about geographical kinds of things? You mentioned Ferrisburg. I'm not aware of.
I think
You have one in.
if
Yeah.
we've got, if we can modernize some of our existing plants and make them more efficient, get in the equipment that they need, whether it's the particular slicer, maybe it's the packaging, maybe it's some of these.
Yeah.
I think that's an approach, and the people that talk to us, it's, they need a lot of customers to go through efficiently in a time period. So that's and then it's once you get it slaughtered, then you've got the real work is the cut and wrap. That takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So maybe they're slaughtering on 1-2 days, and then the next 3 days they're processing that to the packaging and getting it back out. So there's a lot of labor on that side of it. Sometimes we just forget about.
Yeah.
Take care of it one day. But Carl's is quite a facility. It's been incredible private, state, and federal investments in there, and I think that will help. That will help a lot once that is complete. I don't know how far along it is, but it looks really impressive.
Good.
Maybe we can shift to the Innovation Center. So, just a quick recap, this is something that we manage for the region, all of New England, Pennsylvania, New York, Jersey, Maryland. This is helping us with production, marketing, distribution, and dairy, both going to the farmer and also for the processor. One thing that was significant this summer, we announced about $12 million in processor grants. Many of them went to Vermont facilities. Cabot received 2 significant grants. One for $1 million for the Cabot plant to work with Cracker Cuts. You may be familiar now that.
Did they get that in or?
Yeah, they did. Well, I don't know if they've gotten it in yet, but they were awarded the grant. And that is the growth in their business, is the Cracker Cuts and shredded cheese. So that piece of equipment is rather expensive. And we also did something not within our border, but it served Agamark and Cabot with changing the fuel heating system down in electricity and all that down in West Springfield. They processed something down there, so they changed the fuel system for something else that saved them significantly. But there were many grants to some of our smaller cheesemakers that needed equipment, ice cream maker and Regents. So it's significant. One thing that's we're going to be awarding some grants for the on-farm storage capacity, bulk tanks, chillers, that kind of. And of course, we're over going to disappoint more people than we please because of just a lot of people have not made improvements on their farm. And that helps with transportation issues as well. More storage, don't have to send the truck around as much. Helps with, climate change, all those issues. But we're very, very fortunate to have this center, and we do have a big conference coming up first week in April in Albany, New York. That we're going to, I think you recall when we're up in Jay, maybe 5 years ago, when we had a sort of a dairy conference. This is we're gonna do it again. And from that conference in Jay kind of led to this center and our focus on not only cows, but goats, sheep. So it was all eligible.
Yeah, speaking of, the cut and rat, the cut and rat, line at Cabot, back of month or so ago, they said that because of not having that at that point, they had to stop doing some lower sales cheese items and that it's really critical for our dairy guys, have that place running as fast and as good as it possibly can. So it's really great that they did get that grant. And we've been working with Gus Seelick some in regards to doing some housing, because they said another part of their problem was they'd hire people but have no housing for them. And I guess the creamery or whoever Cabot is, Agrimart, Cabot, they've got plenty of land up there. And so Gus has been working with them supposedly, and we got him coming back on trying to get some, not farm labor housing, but ag employee labor housing put in up there to help with that. We don't hear much about the Middlebury.
Yeah, and this is where your housing discussions are gonna come in, where it's critical that we have housing for our processing facilities. And this goes to not only Cabot, but it goes to, Jasper Hill will tell you the same story in Greensboro. A lot of enthusiasm, people wanting to work for them, would be willing to move to the kingdom if they could find some, housing. Cabot, as you mentioned, they told the story that they would like to operate the plant more than they have, but they cannot. They are having some discussions with Goddard in Plainfield. So we were out there last week with Housing Commissioner and myself, talking with Cabot and Goddard. Goddard has.
That's pretty close, or?
They do have some housing right now. We have some, there are 4 Afghans that are employed by Cabot that are living on the Goddard campus. And Plainfield, if people are not familiar, it's a 15-minute, 10-minute drive to road to them. So Goddard and Cabot have a relationship already, and they're talking with each other about could they do more. And the state is having, conversation, how do we support that? Because I think, it's one of those issues that, they could put more, we had more places to live, we could have more workers closer to where they want to work. Yeah. So that it's not Cabot and I don't think it's as cute in Middlebury. There may be some more options in the Middlebury area, but I've heard from some of the smallest cheese makers. And Jasper will tell you the same thing, that if you have lost an employee, trying to get an employee. If you don't want to be commuting, if you don't have to, an hour and a half, an hour.
Well,
Especially in agriculture, it's.
Yeah, and it's hard to travel that distance up the kingdom, up and down and around, and back up again. And, yeah,
So, just in the areas, on-farm milk storage is big, food safety. We have trade show assistance, sheep and goat dairy. We continue to need more goat's milk for Vermont Creamery, which is in Berry Town. We want to modernize the farms if we can. We have marketing and process and innovation. So we'll have about $7.5 million to the USDA for the innovation center. And then you can see the breakdown. Vermont has done quite well. Awarded 114 applications, about $10 million has been returned to Vermont. Some of the highlights, but word is spreading. The other states that are
catching on.
they're like, oh, this is a pretty cool program.
It's nice to beat New York, though.
Yeah, so it's and it's great. We've got to keep getting this authorized in Washington, but it's a good program. It's a good.
Those numbers don't look good.
They don't look good?
Well, I mean, Delaware's had got 4 applications.
Yeah.
In New Jersey, 7, Rhode Island, 4, and then you finally get down in the alphabet and we're at 247.
Yeah.
They're gonna be accusing,
Wow.
you folks of, playing.
No, I think we're all right there.
No, I didn't.
So there, farm division, again, standard. This is the feed, fertilizer, pesticide, all those issues, everything pretty standard there, no real changes. Randolph, we go to feed for space. We had an increase there,
Is that the lab?
it's a lot.
Yeah.
So that's,
Now, did they get their air?
we're working on.
Handled?
Well, yeah, there's a couple issues, the steam heat, we get the steam heat from the college.
Yeah, you're gonna have your own.
We're gonna have our own, so that's, I believe, under design,
That is under design.
so then we'll have our own heating system. So that's underway.
Because the cannabis crew needs a lab. And it would be good if they could get in there, but something about the humidity or.
Yeah, and the odor and the smell is another issue if it went throughout the building, may impact other tests. So there is someone that's working on that whole, trying to figure out, it can be done, it's just a matter of how it's gonna look. So those discussions are happening between the Cannabis Control Board and Buildings and General Services of trying to locate the lab.
We'll be looking
Oh,
after
yeah,
that.
you guys are on that in institution.
Yeah.
You're kind of lucky. We got 2 on institutions, 2 on appropriations. This guy doesn't have another committee. We're working on trying to find a place that will have.
Well, this committee should be taking up the issue, what the degree programs are at the state college.
Right.
That's
You
right.
could appoint him to that.
We're tradesmen.
I think that would be a
Right,
big
we
job
are.
for him.
Take the notes.
Desperate.
Yeah, that's the only way I remember.
He's very generous guy, though. He loves to choose his room.
And then the final one, water quality now? Yeah, water quality. We mentioned the districts, basic salary benefits. A lot of our dollars come through the Clean Water Board, they come down to us.
Yeah.
So that program seems to be running well. It's been well funded. We made historic investments in that program. Pretty standard stuff.
That, is that coming along pretty good, like the buffer strips? I don't know if that would be part of the clean water grants, but I know that we, over the years, we've done a lot with buffer strips and ditching and, hate to even bring it up, but, me as well, I haven't heard much about anti-tile drainage, and is that getting pretty well under control?
Yeah, I think, you know, as the program has matured, I think, you know, farmers are understanding the rules and the regulations and the RIPs.
Yeah.
We're doing a much better job inspecting than we have in the past. We're being much more timely of getting out, you know, just to review the people who have LFOs, large farm operations, which is cows, 700 plus, are inspected every year.
Yeah.
You know, everything from their nutrient management plan to, you know, how they treat their land, all that kind of stuff is done. So we're getting much better at it. And there's been much more assistance, whether it's, you know, engineers designing programs and, you know, there's some stuff coming from USDA, NRCS, significant funding that's coming for helping with climate change and et cetera. So it's, I think it's just kind of like, you know, I was up to Grand Isle and Franklin County Watershed Group. And, you know, I think people are, you know, working through it. You know, the flood, the severe weather is significant. Had a great presentation with Dr. Darby on soil health and what we're doing there. And they've done some work on that. And Vermont actually does quite well across compared to other parts of the country and our soil health. Yeah, so she's got some test results on that. And if we can keep the soil healthy, it will absorb more water so it doesn't run away. And it will also help with our carbon sequester again. So
I was reading, last night, sometime this, over the weekend. In the last 60 days, we produced 133, I think it is, thousand tons of carbon from the airplanes that went over to Israel and in that area. So we're working our little butts off trying to cut down on carbon, and in 2 months, those airplanes have flown over there and back. Have produced 133,000 tons of CO2, and so I don't know how we're gonna pan out on all this. If we got one part of government producing it, and then all the citizens in a little state like Vermont trying to cut it out. Not good reading. I was wondering too, because you're almost
I'm Dan here pretty much.
almost at, we had snow, quite a lot of snow, and after we'd had open ground, but a lot of pits didn't get empty because of the wet ground. And how do we make out with that during or just after? No, they were spreading and the snow came or some darn thing.
Yeah, so just to review, we have a manure spreading ban that begins December 15th. It goes to April 1. Under the law, farmers can ask for an exemption under severe circumstances. So they call up, they write us, we map out a plan of how they're going to proceed if they need to get the manure spread within that window where the ban is in place, essentially an exemption. So this year was incredibly critical because it rained consistently. So these pits are essentially being, most of them were filled up with water. And we got some data on it. Heather Darby did some testing
of what was in the pits. And believe it or not, about 70% of it is water that they were having to apply. So you can well imagine the expense of not getting, spreading water without getting the nutrient benefit. So essentially, I think we have 51, 52 exemptions. I have not signed any in the last, I want to say, couple of weeks. We did have, thankfully, we did have a period of good weather during that critical time that we needed to get manure applied. We worked closely with the Agency of Natural Resources on the plan. They were on board with
I
it.
can put it back.
And so far, so good. But in just a perspective, the year before, we had no exemptions.
All these areas.
So it's heavily dependent on the weather. Everything essentially has to go well starting in the spring. And it has to be wonderful management by farmers, custom applicators, but weather plays the critical. And of course, what we did not want to happen is, come March and April where pits were full and they were needing to spread essentially snow or, because we know in April, water to be on the boards. Melt. So, so far so good, fingers crossed, a tremendous expense. And as one farmer told me, no one wants to spread anywhere there. They do not want to do it. It's bad on their bodies, it's bad on their equipment.
Sure.
It's not good. So, fingers crossed, we'll get
So
through
the
it.
pets got.
A lot of them did, a
down
lot of them did.
Yeah.
And our team works, mapped out a plan. And just a reminder, they still have to follow all the required agriculture practices.
Anybody
as well.
get in trouble, so you have to do citations or they,
There may be one case that they're looking at, but I don't know the full details. Sometimes it's take a while. It was, and if we get complaints, we investigate all the complaints as well. So if we get complaints, we go out and inspect. That's part of the process too.
yeah, cell phones have helped that issue.
Yeah.
Great deal. They don't have
So,
enough to do. And, so what about, before you run, what about the, dairy, I'm reading to dairy, milk is down $3-4 a hundredweight.
yeah, it's not, it's been not the greatest, year. And they're trying to adjust the system with the milk orders, maybe improve the situation for value added too. Because we're kind of a value added state in Cabot, so they're not getting paid as much for value added.
Doesn't
They should.
trickle down for
Right.
some reason.
So those painful hearings are underway, Washington to adjust those. And Agamar and Cabot are right at the table trying to work on those discussions with him, but it's a long, tedious review process that's happening at USDA. And they've been having hearings, take a break, and more hearings, so
And,
trapped in that federal system.
and DMC, that's what I, but, it's done pretty well.
It's done very well. And they have not announced this year's sign up yet. We were told it will be coming. But because of high feed costs, low milk production, there were, significant payouts in that essentially insurance program.
So,
Yeah,
so is there money in the budget for that program in the governor's budget?
There is no money, what we have done in the past, was the state paid the premiums. But there is no money in our budget to pay those premiums, this year.
last year it cost us,
Yeah,
million
right,
something.
but and it's a fabulous program so far for us.
It brought in 28 or
Yeah, so, again,
So that's gonna be up to you to make a motion in some other committee room.
I'm happy to do that as long as you second the motion.
those are one-time dollars, so that's,
And
you're right. And we do have, John Roberts can break it down to you if you wanted to have John give
we
you,
had
he
it in.
Okay.
Told
he told us what the breakdown
20,
is.
just about 27 million that the return was.
And would a one-time appropriation be about the same as last year?
I guess it would depend on the details of the sign up, how they would roll it out, but
Yeah.
I would imagine it would be about the same,
We had 400 and
Yeah.
some odd sign up. The organic guys, a lot of them don't sign up
Yeah.
because they know they aren't gonna qualify, so. Well, we must add 90-odd%.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's something that
We will need those numbers.
because the milk prices are down, that our farmers are getting from like 23 or 4 down to 19 or. It's, but when you have like the federal program has a cap of 5 million pounds. See, so the big guys, they get worked out real quick, and the larger, wouldn't that be the larger, middle class, would get cut out too, wouldn't they? Somebody milking 650 cows or have 600, they're gonna cap out too before.
Yeah.
So they aren't gonna get the extra money all year long.
and there's been some discussion of raising the cap, raising the.
Yeah.
So.
Well.
Good, got a few cards on the Innovation Center, if you have any farmers in the region that are curious about it.
Anything else?
No, I think we're good. Always, thank you very much. We stand ready to, if you have follow-up questions, discussions, we're ready to go. Both, Amy and Nicole. We got Mr. Huber here to talk about the rodenticide.
Mhm.
What a great word, huh? Rodenticide.
Yeah,
So-
we gotta learn more about that stuff.
So, well, I've got some, agri news for you. Good old newspaper, doesn't it? Like them. I know you love reading newspapers. Thank you. Good. So there, the latest one, there's some of our programs in more detail let's talk about. Kind of cool.
Yeah, that is good. I think all the committee members get these each month.
Yes.
Because it's, good.
I love reading newspaper this one, so.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll use.
Yeah. And, we had, last year we talked about the virtual fence deal.
Yeah,
And, I guess we had Smith in earlier.
yeah.
And it's working. The collars, they won't last, or the batteries haven't been lasting the
Oh.
entire summer. They work good right up until the fall, but they gotta get a little stronger.
Cows get out in the fall every year, no matter what it is. It's
But-
historic.
He showed us, a slide that talking about water quality.
Yeah.
And there was a real wet spot in the middle of their field where they were pasturing. And so they put a fence around the ponds, because cows love to go stand in the
Yeah,
water when it's warm. Giant cows would walk up to that virtual fence, and go in the water. And no, it was a pretty positive report.
no, I've heard good things. There's a bee farmer up in Hardwick that's been using them as well.
Yeah.
And that, he showed me a picture of the green grass, very thick on one side, and then when they were grazing, but the labor savings, and maybe you can get to some places that you couldn't build a fence
Yeah,
as well. I had a discussion up in St. Albans this week where someone may want to pasture more heifers. See, the dairy farmer wants to pasture more heifers, so he was thinking about that might be a better thing to do. Managing fence is difficult.
well, and costly. And,
That's like
Even-
barbed wire, not barbed wire, right?
What?
You get barbed wire fence, right?
No, it's mostly electric now, but even if you have the outer perimeter, if you're gonna rotate graze within,
Yeah.
within the pasture. You know, I spend, every, week to 10 days, I spend at least a half a day rotating fences within it. And if all I really need to do is have the outer perimeter and then be able to rotate. You have much better management practices because people, it's hard to keep up with those fences internally.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. Well, I'm glad to hear that. It's great to hear.
yeah,
No, we've heard good things, and if we get, it's kind of the innovation part of our,
well,
Program.
that really helped to get that going, but a couple of little grants or one or two.
Yeah.
And, so that's good.
well, good.
Well, any other questions from the committee?
Well, thank you. We'll see you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck. Thank you. We'll follow up on some issues.
Yeah, thank you very much, and, Richie, and I'll watch your budget.
We'll cover some of these.
Thank you.
We got with that.
I made some coffee.
You mean from the agency?
No, the insurance.
The DMC.
Oh,
No, yes.
Yeah.
We got it with those.
How are you just?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good to see you too. Non-com center. Right. Yay.
You need to take a break.
I'm fine.
You're gonna get some water.
Great.
I
Didn't,
did.
didn't we get testimony from John Roberts on from the DMC? He
Yeah.
Gave us those
But
numbers.
it would be nice if you had it all in one place, like on a sheet or something.
You could probably say.
Yeah, that would be,
We invested $1 million and we got back 20 something.
right. And, but what does this year look like? And-
Yeah.
And the drop in prices.
Pricing?
Yeah, because I think that would put a lot of, if it's down $3 under, that would put a lot of pressure on.
Would like me to email John Roberts and ask him to send that information?
Well, we're not gonna get the pricing. We could get, but we can pull that off for April.
Oh, yes.
The difference in the pricing would have to come from
Morning. I haven't heard back, but I'm working on it.
EB. They,
I don't think
EB
we wish for lines, but
Yeah.
Gary Commissioner's lines.
See if you were, we met
We're still
a
on.
couple years ago.
but we could get the,
They were producers lines.
like, I get it from,
He was there. I was always asked to show up to the.
the
And
USDA
for a couple of years. and nobody-
something on my iPad.
Nobody ever
I
asked.
just,
But for EB over at the agency, she must get all
she must have a.
We know all of them.
It's here's what, we put it in.
Yeah. It's every one of their stories. I mean,
And somebody's gonna look there and they're gonna say, well, why would we do that again this year? It's much better
It's
if
just
I
like
have
outside.
it right on the tip of my tongue.
Pollinator.
Say,
Use
here,
that some help.
So see if EB can give us
How's that made it up?
the
Picture for our.
milk prices
They loved it.
23 versus
The
20
author of the House bill was on there.
projections for 24. And then we already have the figure from John.
Yes.
It's all different.
So
Two sides of the face.
we'll see what that looks like. So
His backstop, we need to figure it out there.
Yeah, I was.
He's good. We just need that one around. My clothes are too nice for that salad right there.
Right. Well, it might be off.
There he is.
I don't know if you read the newspaper this morning, but it might be off.
John.
40 in the sending.
He's nice. He's nice.
Anytime.
I'm so proud to have you from Martin Lalonde. That's that thing. Martin Lalonde.
Yeah.
That's mine. I have to be his, but we can have you vote.
Oh, what about my address?
I can use that.
Uniform 272.
Use a different address.
Does anyone else need?
Use the one right here on First
Do
Street.
you need a copy?
I don't think that we've met
I don't
before.
think so either. Amber Perry, Vermont Farm Bureau.
Nice to meet you. I'm Dave Hughes, the director of Public and Agricultural Research. Vermont, it is there.
Yeah.
So, more,
Good morning, Senator.
we'll be starting.
Sure. You want me to pop up?
Yeah, you know, unless you need to visit, you know. I don't.
We were just solving some problems,
Yeah.
Good.
Solve the problem.
so that you don't have to deal with it.
Oh,
Saving the bees.
Oh,
We're gonna save the bees.
Well, I think a lot of people would appreciate that.
Mm,
Just what I am, figure out yet, where life is that we are the only state that are losing bees. It's happening, you know, all over. And, so I don't know if we really figured out what's happening to them, but we all know how important they are to our crop food grow and all that.
So we got a headline there. Record number of managed honeybee colonies reported in Vermont in 2023.
Yeah. But they said that isn't an accurate.
Yeah, they said that,
It's
right?
not an accurate count. And so we're gonna give you a little money, Dave, and have you count each bee. We keep track of our,
if that's what you want to
keep
do.
track of our dairy cows and things. So I think we're gonna be busy.
Well, I actually have a new position to pose for you for the rodenticides. I would like to go out and count the animals if that's possible.
So, we're call the meeting back to order and we can get more serious about, things. Dave, you met the committee, so we're all good.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
And, so we're gonna chat a little bit about, S272. And, I'm sure this isn't a new subject for you, but talking about the second generation of pesticides and things. And, so could you give us a little take on that subject and where we are and how we're testing and how that's all going?
Of course. For the record, Dave Huber, Deputy Director of Public Health and Agricultural Resource Management Division at the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, talking about S272. And I have some stuff to talk to you folks about as far as rodenticides go, but I did just want to start off by saying that I did touch base with Senator Gulick yesterday just to get more information about the genesis of 272. I wasn't exactly sure what the bill was put in place for.
I'm sorry, I just out of curiosity, is this just for?
Yeah, it's for a documentary.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's it.
Just to get some more information as to why 272 was brought to your committee's attention. I watched, I think it was on the 19th when Council Brady came in and spoke to your committee about the bill, and Senator Gulick also came in and spoke a little bit about 272. But I just wanted to clarify a couple of items, and so I spoke with her. This appears to be a case where
Go ahead.
of course, this appears to be a potential case where there was a condo association and perhaps there wasn't enough notification or notification wasn't done appropriately. Regardless, there was a complaint and the agency never received a complaint. And the complaint instead has turned into 272. And I think that we had received a complaint through the proper channels. If we were notified, if I was notified of this, then we have a process in place to go out and investigating such complaints.
But you folks didn't
No.
get no complaints or registered.
No, we received plenty of complaints, but we don't have any complaint about this. I asked Senator Gulick if she was aware of her constituents had submitted a complaint. She was not aware. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention that we have a mechanism in place through the administrative enforcement process, which includes items found during inspections, investigations, as well as other campaigns, which I'm gonna share with you all what we've done for rodenticides just this past year. And also I would like to just tell you what the EPA is doing as well. But
Senator Bulick did send, I think, us the complaint this morning. I have it.
I did that.
Okay.
I'll slap. I didn't receive.
Oh, it's sent to Irene. I'll forward it to you.
I asked Senator Gulick
Yeah.
if she had it, and her constituents felt like they wanted to put forth an actual complaint to the agency.
Yeah.
That, yeah, I would love to be able to provide some sort of closure to her constituents in the form of an investigation. You know, while we may not be able to do it, you know, go further with necropsy or finding out anything about what was actually in these apparently infected pets' livers, blamed allegedly on rodenticide use. What we can do is find out if there was an application made to the premises by a certified applicator. We can also interview those folks who live in the condo association.
So it's only a registered applicator that can buy this stuff? Because I thought it was a little bit unclear whether you could go to the hardware store or wherever and buy it right off the shelf. And so it is a restricted use product.
Well, I don't know what product was used. So that would be found during the investigatory process. 'Cause I don't know, all I know is that there's an alleged complaint that was the genesis for 272 about rodenticides, potentially poisoning pets. And I don't know any more than that, absent an investigation.
Well, that's what we were told when Senator presented the bill to us. That it was, that the condos, pets got into the stuff and there was serious issues. And so, but you don't know if the rodenticides and that product is a restricted use product or not.
Yeah, in this specific case, I don't know what product was used because no investigation has been done on this case. I'm not even aware where the conduct is.
So at this point, Dave, is it still possible to even investigate? I mean, what happened to the carcasses, if you will?
I don't know what has happened to the carcasses because I don't know any more about the initial complaint. Other than what you heard on the 19th and what I learned from speaking to Senator Gulick yesterday. If there is a complaint that is brought forth to the agency, more than happy to send out one of the agricultural resource management specialists in that territory to further investigate, which would include finding out whether there's a contract with a pest management professional to service the condo or the housing association. Going and talking to those who have been affected by possible rodenticide adverse interaction, if that's what is found. And that's easily found by talking to the residents who have made the complaint. This would follow a standard investigatory process that we already employ in-house for the public health division. And if I have more information, more than happy to report back as well as to what occurs.
Brian?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this doesn't look like the complaint. This is, I guess, somewhat related to all this. The Fish and Wildlife Department put out a report. Their 2023 Fur Bearer newsletter indicates testing fishers and bobcats for these rodenticides indicate a presence up to 6 different compounds are being found in the example. So not related to this case, but related to the overall bill.
Of course.
Thanks.
Of course.
Without the dogs, wouldn't that kind of there's a missing link there somewhere, I think. If you were gonna investigate, you don't have any way to tell what was put and where it was put. Am I correct?
You are correct, Senator Collmore, but that would be through the investigatory process that we would try to answer those questions or shed some light. And again, if there was a certified applicator who was hired and contracted with by that housing association, the condo association,
Okay,
that would be something that the specialist would be able to find out.
I thought that our testimony that we received was the individual that was living
that's what I thought.
in the condo is the one that applied the product outside. And I think the big question for us that you might be able to help us with, if these things were a restricted use product, they'd be marked that, and only a certified licensed applicator would be able to use it to take care of rodents and things. And what we need to know as a committee is basically what products would they have to be reclassified? And should they be reclassified? And so we can make a determination of how to move forward. We don't want our wildlife and we don't want people's pets getting a hold of this stuff that's deadly poison and killing them. Whereas if a licensed applicator was doing this work, they would know where they could put it in the ramifications of their actions and be responsible or held responsible for their actions. And is that something you or the agency could figure out if?
Yes, and I that was just a precursor to the conversation about that. I just wanted to let you know about the conversation I had with Senator Rulick, that we were more than happy to conduct an investigation to more about that specific case. As to rodenticides though, I understand you had some questions about first generations and second generation anticoagulants. There are no third generation anticoagulants. But there are 68 products that are registered in Vermont that are second generation anticoagulants.
They are registered.
They are registered. Yeah, we register pesticides in the Public Health Agricultural Resource Management Division, in addition to plenty of other items involving agricultural inputs and outputs dealing with pesticides, feed, seed, fertilizer, lime, apiaries. But one of the tasks that we do have is classifying and registering pesticides. And for the second generation anticoagulants, there are 68 that are registered. Out of those, 56 out of those 68 are state restricted use. State restricted use. So those are class A. We have 3 classes of pesticides in Vermont. We have homeowner use, which would be class C. You know, most of the chemicals that you can purchase over at like Home Depot or a Lowe's. Mosquito spray, items like that. Then we have class B, which are usually turf lawn care products. Again, a homeowner can purchase those over at a Home Depot or Lowe's or another store that sells pesticides. Then we have class A, which are reserved for either federally or state restricted use pesticides. And so for a state restricted or federally restricted use pesticide, you do have to have that extra certification in order to purchase those products. Those are reserved for the pest management professionals out there, for those who have the ability to purchase those products. And so 12 are classed as class B.
So do we have, so 58 and 56?
68 total second generations that are registered.
68?
Yes.
Oh.
So those are 68 products in the state that contain second generation anticoagulants.
And they're all restricted.
No, 56 of those are restricted use.
Okay, I have to.
You had that. And then 12 are class B. And so this bill's looking to regulate those 12 products.
Okay. So if I could, so Dave, what's the process? If I'm a licensed applicator, do I have to show something when I buy it at the store, or they say, oh yeah, Joe, I know who you are, I can sell that to you kind of thing? Do you?
What they should be doing
Okay,
is saying, can I see your license? You know, it would be like going to purchase, cigarettes or alcohol.
okay,
You have to
Yeah.
show your ID. I think the prudent thing to do is always to ask for a license. Because that's what the law says, and if you don't ask for that, and it's found that the person that you just sold the product to doesn't have that certification or license, then not only is the person who purchased it potentially going to get in trouble, but so is the dealer who is licensed to sell those products. So they have to take a different set of examinations in order to be able to sell those products. The goal is to have somebody who can sell the product, answer any questions to anybody who's licensed to buy that product, if there's a licensure regimen in place.
and do they keep a record of who they sell it to?
They do.
Okay,
Good, so. Like Tractor Supply, do they sell stuff like this?
Tractor Supply sells products, and I would like to go over with you what products are. So you can understand more about what is sold at the stores. And this is all based on 2008 guidance from the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. And I also just wanted to mention that the EPA is moving on issues involving rodenticides. They just put out a statement a couple weeks ago. They're moving rather quickly on this topic. They are compiling a lot of the information that this bill is asking for as far as reports go. That is already being done currently by the EPA. But these reclassification guidelines that the agency employed and our products are classified correctly to this classification guideline involves first generation and second generation anticoagulants. First generation anticoagulants, and I also just want to let you know what they are. First generation anticoagulants, according to the EPA, are they're including anticoagulants that were developed as rodenticides prior to 1970. And these compounds are much more toxic when feeding occurs on several successive days, so multiple feedings. It requires a lot more feedings in order for the rodent to have the effects take place, their full effect, rather than on one day only. And you'll see the second generations took care of that problem because it was a more
One
effective,
day.
and it could be one day. So chlorpassinone, dipassinone, and warfarin are the first generation anticoagulants that are registered to control rats and mice in the United States. That's pursuant to the EPA. Second generation anticoagulants, on the other hand, were developed beginning in the 1970s. And they were around to control rodents that are resistant to those first generation anticoagulants, because eventually there was a little bit of resistance that was built up in the rodent population to the first generation anticoagulants. And so there was a need to control those populations, and that's why second gens came about. These anticoagulants, second generation, they're more than likely than first generation anticoagulants to be able to kill after a single night's feeding. A single night's feeding. And these compounds kill over a similar course of time, but tend to remain in animal tissues longer than do first generations. And these properties mean that second generation products pose greater risks to non-target species that might feed only once, or that might feed upon animals that have eaten the bait. Just full disclosure, this is on the EPA's website. Due to these risks, second generation anticoagulant rodenticides no longer are registered for use in products geared toward consumers and are registered only for the commercial pest control and structural pest control markets. Second generation anticoagulants registered in the United States include rodipicone, bromadilone, difenicum, and dipethylone. So those are the four second generation products. And those are marketed again towards those who have that certification because they are restricted.
If you have a restricted product on the shelf, does it have to be placed differently than a non-restricted product?
If you have a restricted product on your shelf, you have to be licensed to be able to sell that restricted use product. And so, and there's another part I want to talk about as well, about some of these products that are geared towards that market for certified pest management professionals and how those can wind up on the shelf over at a Tractor Supply. And that's because of an agricultural exemption that they're classified as B, but these are in smaller buckets than what are usually sold for certified pest management professional industry, which is usually 16 pounds, and they have to be labeled for professional use. So,
Mr. Chairman, ask me a question.
Yeah.
So with Senator Gulick's situation, well, that's right, it wasn't investigated, so you're not sure if it was somebody who's certified that may have applied it or somebody that wasn't.
right. Okay. And now, don't get me wrong, we try not to go after homeowners. We try to educate homeowners. But
You mentioned that this week, yeah.
Last year, and yeah, we try to educate.
It keeps coming up in my mind. So they contact the senator to get her to introduce a bill. How do you get information out about who people in the public should contact? Because it seems to me that if they had known that the agency was available to do that, they would have contacted you before they contacted her.
Correct, Senator.
So how do you let people know where to call?
Senator.
Could you tell us a little more about the
Yes.
exemption?
I can tell you more about the exemption. Senator Westman, this answers your question.
Okay.
These are water resistant copies that we've instructed staff to place at any retail establishment that distributes rodenticides. It has my cell phone number on here. And I'm aware of those consequences, but I pick up the phone.
So I just say, I've been into a hardware store and bought these products to use and I've never seen one.
Yes. We started putting these out over this past summer.
Okay.
And I've also emailed to several, to all Tractor Supply district managers that they have their own copies. Tractor Supply has put up their own Tractor Supply endorsed copies of this. Now, no store is required by law to place this up. We would go in, we would say, look, you sell rodenticides. If you're selling rodenticides such as bait that falls under this restricted class B ag exemption, then what we would like for you to do is put up this poster that says, in addition to selling it, it's illegal for somebody to use this product without a bait box, a bait station. Those, they look like a rock sometimes, or they're black and.
On the picture?
Yep, right in the picture. And I also just wanted to show you this. I know this probably isn't the biggest screen, but in case anybody was interested in more, you go like that. And
Are you dealing with a rodent problem? Rodents like mice and rats can be a nuisance around your home and can lead to serious problems if they get out of hand. Rodenticides are a type of pesticide that can be used to control the pests, but they must be used properly. It is important to know that these materials could harm children, pets, and wildlife if not used correctly. If you choose to use rodenticide, then it's important to always read the full label and follow the directions. A tamper-resistant bait box is required for outdoor use or in places where children, pets, or wildlife could reach the bait. If you do not use a bait station, then children, pets, or wildlife could get the toxic bait. Bait stations can also increase the safety of snap traps and be used to place non-toxic detection blocks. Failure to follow the label can result in a fine. And never reuse a pesticide container. Puncture the container to prevent reuse and place it in the trash, not in the recycling bin. Rodent control can be accomplished using multiple strategies. Sanitation, rodent-resistant compost bins, removal of food and water sources, traps and glue boards, many types are available at most hardware stores, and exclusion efforts for residences. Contact the Vermont Agency Agriculture, Food and Markets with any questions or to report pesticide misuse.
The same phone number.
That's still my phone number on YouTube.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very effective.
That's answered.
Yes, that was, and you just heard Nancy, so.
Yep.
So how would these, so down in Bennington, you would drop them off?
We go to.
You just drive, okay, so you've been down there.
We've been to Bennington, I can give you a full list of everywhere as well as the date that it was dropped off.
We have inspectors in stores all over.
They do. And we made sure that these are water resistant, so if there is a spill, it doesn't affect too much, but.
Can I, so you can take these to the store and you can do that. You've had places like, it sounds like Tractor Supplies, been good about doing, but, can you, but you have no ability to mandate that they have to have this information near where they're selling.
No, we do not, but and we do not have the ability to mandate that. And
We could, of course.
We do.
But I just, wanna make sure that,
Yeah,
you certainly could, and that might resolve
Thank you.
several issues. We have not had resistance from most hardware stores or farms stores or any sort of store that sells rodenticides to these. One, because they're going to make a sale of not only the rodenticide, but also an additional bait station. Plus they impart the knowledge so that more folks are spreading that word that they need to have the bait station. That probably increases those sales as well, but it also provides a safer environment for those who are around these bait stations, because they're designed to ensure that the rodenticide is used in a more safe manner.
we just say, I don't, when I overshot hardwares, but I just can't remember seeing anything like this,
not in my truck.
Your Tractor Supply Bank, I believe has that, yes. And if you let me know whatever store you're talking about, Senator, I will go myself and drop this.
Okay, I don't doubt that. You look like you're doing your job.
So, how do we deal with 272? So that people don't go buy this stuff and don't have the cover and the container, and they still put the product out around their condo. I mean, how do we stop them from being able to buy this stuff willy-nilly off the shelf?
If you wanted to restrict these products, even with the agricultural exemption, then you would look at these 12 products that are classified as Class Bs, and you would make those Class As. But there is that agricultural exemption.
Now, what does that entail, the ag exemption?
The ag exemption states that restricted sales Class B products, which include bromethylene, chlorphenone, diphenone, cholecalciferol, zinc phosphide, which is not either a first or a second generation anticoagulant. Those have to contain at least 4 pounds of bait, and it can be a larger quantity, and those can be blocks, pellets, or paste. Those are not considered ready to use. And I can go into what ready to use is also. But those are not considered ready to use in a bait station. And the label directs use in a bait station if outdoors. The products labeled for use around agricultural buildings, and you'll find that in the directions for use on the label of these products. This is where that ag exemption comes in. And that, again, that's for those 4 second generation products, but they're sold in 8-pound buckets instead of 16 pounds. And they state that it's for agricultural use in or around agricultural buildings. And it also states, do not use this product in homes or other human residences. So if there was a complaint of somebody utilizing these products in homes, other human residences, and they were uncertified applicator, then the agency can take action.
But they'd have to buy how big a bag?
A minimum 8 pounds.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
A lot of stuff to take from Wake Bennington right out.
The whole town.
Yeah. Yeah, is this stuff real expensive?
For a bucket, an average price might be around $119.99,
How much?
$120 or so.
So a homeowner isn't gonna go spend $120 for,
They might not,
but if they
but-
could buy something for 5, they might.
and so that is why we have Class C products. These are ready to use bait stations. These include bromomethalin, chlorphacinone, and diphacinone. These are first generation anticoagulants. And these are bait stations that are ready to use. They're of a refillable design, and up to 1 pound of bait can be used to fill or refill the bait station included in the packaging, like the retail packaging. So that's where you would find a bait station with maybe a little bit of extra bait sold in a, on the shelf. And it would have that product. It would say that it's one of those 3 products.
Brian?
Thanks for sharing. But that's not your average household, right? Most people, I think, are buying the little traps, right? I mean, you've got a big issue. That's the approach you're going for, right?
Well,
I mean,
there are traps, there are snap
Yeah,
traps,
yeah.
glue boards, but
Right,
you know,
all sorts of things.
if you were to go to a store, if you're going to a store like Home Depot or Lowe's,
Yeah.
you're not going to find these 8 pound buckets.
Right,
You're going to
right.
find ready to use and snap traps.
yeah.
Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. David, how likely is it that the EPA will finish their report and issue some sort of thing which might take care of this, if you kind of understand where I'm going with it?
I understand what you're saying. I think that in the bill, it's asking for rules by 2026. I can't speak on behalf of the EPA, but what I can tell you is that the EPA did just come out with, about 2 weeks ago, that their mitigation measures for 11 products, and their mitigation measures include the following restrictions that you might be interested to hear these. It's a draft rodenticide strategy on potential mitigations, and when the EPA does start to move on items, sometimes they move slow, but on this one, they appear to be moving rather quickly. Post-application follow-up to dispose of spilled or kicked out bait. And so you gotta be making sure that an applicator is going and double checking that that bait has not left that bait station. They're doing more routine check. Use of bait stations that exclude listed species by size or behavior. So that might be, you have a bait station that doesn't allow certain animals in because it just is restrictive in the entry hole. Restriction of consumer products to non-refillable bait stations. So now they've taken what we already have as Class C, and the 2008 guidance, and they would be making it so that they don't include that extra bait. So it is just a ready to use product. The biggest one is classifying rodenticides as restricted use products across the board for first generations and second generations. So they're looking at that.
And do we in Vermont do first and second?
We do,
They're both
But-
restricted.
no, they're not. First generations are mainly in ready to use containers as Class C, and that's what most homeowners are using if they want to have a private bait station. Although they can always call a certified pest management professional who would go out and do a service for them on a contractual basis. And they would be, sorry.
I think that is itself, is it?
It is, no, there's no,
Sign is up in
no
there.
no daycare pickups right now.
Had a roll.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
she'll wait at the bus.
So, this, our bill, the one we had before, it's on second generation. And they wanna, and the bill wants to restrict the use of it. If we restrict the use of, what are the ramifications? What's the downside?
If you were to restrict second generation anticoagulants, the way that the bill is written, then only certified pesticide applicators would be able to purchase restricted use class A products, which would get rid of that ag exemption. And so only 12 more products would be affected by this that are class B. They would move up along with the other 56 that are class A. But there would be, I guess the downside might be that the agricultural community would not be able to purchase these on their own and would have to contract with a pest management professional.
But,
No, please go ahead.
but the homeowner still can purchase the class one.
Yes.
Yeah, the little one. So if I've got something that I can't catch in a trap and it seems to be smarter than me, I have an alternative.
You do.
Okay.
Right. Other New England states, do you know whatever, I'm just curious if anybody else is looking in this direction.
Connecticut just announced yesterday that they were also looking at a similar piece of legislation as what you have.
So someone from Vermont could go to New Hampshire and buy it there, perhaps.
Depending on how it's classified.
Okay.
In that state, New Hampshire has a board of pesticides. And so it might be a different story over in New Hampshire. Any of the EPA Region 1 states, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Vermont, we all talk very closely with each other, but we also have different ways of regulating these products, mainly because there's different agricultural necessities in each of these states.
But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chair, it's sort of like the old cigarette thing. And if you're going to outlaw something here and you can just go over the border and get it, that's, I think, part of what we're wondering. If we were to outlaw, but then all, those of us that can just dip down to Mass or New York,
Yeah.
still be able to buy it and just bring it back, right?
Right, I mean, you could go from your Tractor Supply in Reddington, right over the border.
Yeah.
And they have a couple right over the border, right? You'd be able to purchase the product,
Right.
but it depends on what the
With the
classification is.
classification, right, okay,
Because
thanks.
this does not prohibit the use of it, just says sold.
Right.
So the only thing, if we did restrict it, who would be required to hire the applicator instead of using it themselves? Everyone?
Anybody who would be looking for a product that they wouldn't be able to get on the shelf as a Class C product.
That's a big bag.
Class C is those ready to use products, snap traps, glue traps, those are products that you can buy on the shelf. They would be unaffected by this legislation. The products that would be affected are the restricted use 12 controlled sale products right now would be bumped up to a restricted use Class A along with the other 56 already previously classified A products.
So who uses that product?
The pest management professional industry uses these products for contracts with those who would like to employ their services.
So the homeowner wouldn't be affected because they can still buy product. But the ag community wouldn't be affected because they're exempt.
If you move these up though to a Class A product,
We will close that door.
then that exemption would go away. And the agricultural community would be unable to purchase these Class B ag exemption products.
But could we exempt them even if they go to A?
Meaning, if they go to A,
Yeah.
then in order to purchase an A product, you would have to become a certified applicator.
Okay, and we couldn't exempt ag from becoming certified, no, because once it's A,
It's A.
it's A. Got it, okay.
And do I know if they use fertilizers, and they use it, buy it and spread it, they have to have an applicator's license. Would that be different than this applicator's license?
The applicator license for applying pesticides allows you to do one of many things, but one of those would be, depending upon the type of certification you get, allow you to use these products. But again, there are multiple classes of licensure that the agency employs.
Right. Thanks, Chair. So if a farmer, let's say we moved it to A, how hard is it to get sort of certified to use something like that? Do you have a sense, is it a 30-minute online class or it's a real,
It's in person.
it's a hall,
It's in person.
it's in person? So you've got a 30 hours, yeah,
Study time.
take a test.
Take a test. If you don't pass it the first time, you can take it 1 week later.
So it's not like okay.
If you don't pass it a second time, you can take it 1 month later. If you don't pass it the third time, you have to wait an entire year.
Okay. Oh,
See, a lot of firms,
Yeah.
They just hire their commercial guy that comes in and does,
yeah,
40 feet or whatever.
right. It's a big deal.
And they don't fool with it.
I can see the only agricultural use mostly is in a barn, where you've got grain and feeds around, and you're overrun with mice. And in that run, it reduces that, so.
And Senator, you're correct. That's why there is that ag exemption there.
Yeah, and I get why I'm just trying to sort it out in my mind and understand. But one question, if the homeowner goes in and buys the small amount under £1 and it does that. It would occur to me that in this particular situation that happened, you might have somebody that goes out and buys multiple things. If they use it incorrectly outside, it still could affect the neighbor's cat.
It certainly could.
So my thought is mandating that this be there so people knew to call you would not be a bad idea.
And you bring up a very valid point, Senator. Even though there is that ag exemption, it does allow it to be sold in retail establishments. And so a homeowner could walk in there and purchase a bucket. And at the front desk, before this was placed in the stores, they maybe didn't know. Maybe they wouldn't know to sell this bait station, but with this sign, they would have to say, please buy a bait station or we can't sell you this product.
Yeah, I'd like them to have the information to know enough to call you.
Yeah.
Well, those stores, I mean, they're busy as heck. And
Well, they're busy.
short of help,
Yeah,
and it would be good if we could do a lot of it, where we bump this stuff up, the category, but if it's gonna prohibit somebody that uses that upper or bigger bag legitimately, and we've never had a complaint in this committee on it. I didn't know that was how to do that and not prohibit a legitimate buyer from actually being allowed to buy it.
It would be helpful if we knew what happened in this particular situation.
Well, it was used in a wrong way.
But we don't know what it was.
Except for it was a relevant product with it all that. Any other questions?
No, it's very helpful.
it's very,
Thanks for your good work.
Yeah, it sounds like you're on top of it.
Well, we take we take everything seriously when it comes to pesticide misuse. That's why we're here to regulate as a co-regulator, as a state lead agency with the EPA. And so if we do receive a complaint, we're legally obligated to investigate, and I would love to know more about the situation. That's what brought this about, so that we could talk to those affected.
Yeah.
And hopefully effectuate change. I also brought for the committee, if you would like, new copies of our pesticide rule. These went through the formal rulemaking last year, and they were adopted and goes into regulation on February 24th, 2023. So we're approaching the full year. These are also the water resistant copies, just like these signs.
Nice.
That way, you know, for those who are in the field, and maybe not you guys, but
You never know.
Never know. But our staff who are in the field, it's good to have a copy that can whip out in the middle of the field or anywhere that might be humid or moist.
Nice version, with the print's small.
Yeah. There is an online version? There is an online version.
Good, I need that because
I think my cell number is in there as well.
Okay.
Online version.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, yes,
Okay.
okay, yeah. This will remind me. Thanks.
You guys.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, very nice job.
this is helpful.
Good, very good. Please, don't hesitate to let me know if you have any.
Even less cute rodent, I'm sorry, we used to have that.
I know,
And this is a little,
little cute.
little cute.
Teeth there.
Exactly. Next time.
That's a Vermont road.
Did you ask the
I
chair?
have,
Yeah.
it's kind of neighborly.
You're the
Hey, great, thank you.
How come I get the copy that's barely stapled together and they get one? I get one that's, yeah, there's no binder in mine, just a couple of staples that almost go all the way through.
Well, there's-
It shows you how important you are.
I know, exactly.
But it's the print big enough for you to read, is the
No,
question.
probably not.
Dave printed these up this morning before he came, so.
You should have seen him on the news when he was talking about it last summer.
Never realized how many times I say, You see it on the 4 minute CAX clip. Oh, that's your fun, Steve.
Morning, Stephen.
Morning, do you want me to?
No, we have one other witness. There's some other witness here.
We got John on the screen. Sorry, missed you.
No worries, Senator. And you know what? I'm unfortunately about 8 minutes late to my next appointment. And I think Mr. Huber did a fantastic job of highlighting some of the things that I would have highlighted, but I will just make myself a resource to you all. My name is John Gaeta. I am the Director of State Affairs for RISE. We are the National Trade Association representing the manufacturers, formulators, and distributors of specialty products. So that covers rodenticides. And so when I saw this bill, obviously on behalf of our manufacturers, we did have some issues with this bill. I think you guys have covered it pretty well. I don't want to get into too much. I did want to just highlight through the conversation. I think Mr. Huber bringing up the EPA was absolutely necessary because they started this process in 2020. They had announcements in 2022, and now they are committed to having this all completely rolled out and finished by the fall of 2024. And Mr. Huber walked through some of the mitigations that they've already announced. But one thing I did want to highlight for this committee is that the EPA is considering further restricting some of those second generation anticoagulant rodenticides to become the category of professional use only. So we heard from Dave that there are 12 products available that would be switched over if this bill were to go through. However, EPA is already looking at making some reclassification. So I think my overall message here is we would really respect if the EPA process could play out. We do believe that this is the year that this will get complete. I know it's been 4 years, but given the amount of research and time that has gone into the subject, we would just urge, a little bit of pushing the brakes on this matter and allow that process to play out. So I have to run. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you all, but I am available as a resource if you continue to have questions about this bill. We are represented in the state. We have a lobbying firm through Margaret Lagus and Jonathan Wolf. I'm sure you folks know those folks. So I'm easily accessible and can answer any questions.
Yeah, so if you think by this coming fall, the feds will have adopted the program?
We believe that they will finish it's a biological evaluation. And we are in an open comment period right now that ends February 13th. So I believe that is kind of the last hurdle. And then after that, they'll roll everything out. And they're saying fall 2024, they're done on second gen rodenticides. So we'll have a whole new slew of rules, requirements. And as I mentioned, perhaps some of these products might be reclassified federally. So this bill will almost be moot, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do we have a rule that we follow the federal regs?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would put us in line to restrict them.
Once that, Dave Huber, Agency of Agriculture, once that goes into effect, then yes, we have to be as strict or stricter than.
Yes, pharmacy plus.
Okay. You have any questions for John?
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging in.
Thanks.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
This is
No
the
one?
new one that Michael just sent. There was a small change,
bill?
there's a small change from yesterday,
Yeah.
request.
Morning, Stephen.
Morning.
Did Crime Bureau or you folks, did you want to weigh in on the previous stuff?
No, thank you.
Oh, morning.
Morning. I feel like this chair is an upgrade for the witness. This new?
I don't think so.
It's broken.
Notice how low it is. We've got you down here.
Right.
Where I belong.
You can pull a lever to jack.
The eject button.
Yeah.
It was so warm when I walked in, I was looking for a hammock, but I didn't see one anywhere.
Well, and some people we take that aside in one of the metal chairs with no pad.
Oh, maybe I got upgraded this year, is that?
Anytime.
So we got the different subject matters, in the agencies. Request.
Yeah, see you later. Bye.
The agency's request, we have those divided up, this thing, and hopefully, what committee bill, the way that works, we'll try to vote that out today. So it'll come up on the floor hopefully tomorrow.
Right.
And they bill, and then we would ask to have it recommitted to the ag committee. So that then we'll go to work.
Sure.
And I just wanted to make sure that if you hadn't read through this, that you would go through it, and if you haven't found any errors or corrections that we need to do before it goes to the floor.
So, good morning, Senator. Steve Collier from the Agency of Agriculture. The only typo that I saw was in section 1, first one on the seeding and filter strip program.
Yeah.
The request there is to eliminate the 10-year requirement to grant more flexibility, and it's done in subsection A. But in B, on the incentive payments, it still says at the outset of the 10-year grant agreement. So it wouldn't be a 10-year, if you're amenable to this proposal, it would no longer be a 10-year grant agreement, it would just be a grant agreement.
Sure. So that should be,
Correct.
The 10-year.
Just the 2 words, 10-year. I think it's just a typo, I suspect, because
And we kind of run through that, right?
I looked through, I have not read carefully the new draft, the 3.1 draft that, Linda did give me a copy this morning, but I looked through the 2.2 draft, and that was the only thing that I saw that was, that I had a concern
Yeah,
with.
I think that's what we did have it. And,
I think it's section 16, that is the addition, which Michael O'Grady wanted to add. Yeah,
15, thank you, Senator.
I think so.
I looked through quickly when, after Linda gave it to me, but I didn't see what was changed.
The 2.1, I think, ended with the striking of subsection 15 on the preceding page.
and section 16 came from Vito.
Right, and this, right, Cassie Polimas from, the CEO of Vita is the one who proposed this information, so, yeah. We're aware of it and think it's a good idea, but it's not, we didn't work on the language itself at all. Yeah. Did you want me to talk about any of the proposals, or are you just, you don't have any questions?
Well, we've got a few minutes if you wanted to run through them quickly, and a little bit of an explanation of why you're proposing it, because we haven't had you in.
Sure, whatever, if you have, I can do it, whatever or not. I know Michael walked you through it yesterday.
Yeah, he went through with his interpretation and
Sure,
in the law written copy.
Right.
Sure of that, but if you want to talk about why you guys felt that these changes were good for the ag community and good for the people, that would be good.
sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you. So instead of the language, I'll just focus on the request, and then if any of you have any questions about the
Yeah, let's
language,
dig into.
happy to
We
address
will
them.
after we get it back to committee and we
Sure.
got it back from the floor.
Sure. So in section 1, the seeding and filter strip program, it's actually one of the most cost-effective ways to eliminate ag waste from reaching water. So you can either have a grass waterway, so that's really effective where there's areas of erosion. So instead of having annual crop, if you can put a grass waterway that you can actually harvest, if you can have it in those areas, it can really reduce a lot of the runoff because the sediment is filtered and is absorbed into the soil instead of creating a gully where the water can run more quickly. So that's one of the areas. And then a filter strip is adjacent to water, and it's like a buffer, but it's can be harvested, and it's perennial, and it can be wider than a buffer. And it's just another area that in a critical source area where you can really reduce runoff. So we'd like to make better use of this program. In our experience, a lot of farmers are reluctant to commit to 10 years because it's a long time in a farm to try to commit out to doing a certain cropping for a 10-year period. So we believe that if we can get more people interested, they'll continue to do it as they see it's viable. And so rather than we just want to make better use of it. And we understand that 10-year is better environmentally, but if people aren't opting into it, then it's not that effective. And
Yeah,
we've only had, on average, we've given about $10,000 in grants a year in this program. We'd like to bump that up to 50, maybe to 75, to get more people involved. And right now we give $500 an acre as an implementation fee for farmers to do it. So that's only about, that's about 20 acres a year, I think we've been doing. But there's also some cost improvements. We can also contribute. Sometimes in a grass waterway, you might be doing some construction improvements. And so we can also contribute up to 90% of those costs. So we just want more people involved in the program. It's the idea. Yeah.
so I think appreciate a lot.
Right. It's really effective and especially in critical areas. And I did, so it's a little different than the federal program because the federal program is terrific and you can see, if you've ever been to an area where the correct program is instituted, you'll see tremendous vegetation along the waterways and it creates a really viable buffer. The difference with this program is you can still use the cropland, it's still harvestable, but it's a much better use than an annual crop. So there is a distinction between the federal program and this program, and that you can still farm it, but it's a much more effective way of keeping your nutrient.
And can you do both program and the state program, or is it just one or the other?
I believe you can do both, but not on the same parcel of land. I think you'd be doing it,
That's what Michael said yesterday.
yeah,
You can't double dip.
yeah, right. It would be, yeah, they're different intents, but I don't, as far as I'm aware, there's no reason a farm couldn't utilize both programs on different parcels. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the impetus behind that. This, the public warehouse change is a whole lot of language because it impacts several different areas of law, but it's really simple at its core. If you store 1,000 pounds of more of all of the listed commodities, you have to have a license. And the idea is just to make sure that you're doing so appropriately, you're using proper refrigeration. It's a food safety issue. But right now, dairy and meat are listed in this warehouse license requirement. We already separately have regulatory programs for dairy and meat. So this is just duplicative to do it for both to have the public warehouse license and also have the separate milk handler. And then there's a litany of different licenses you need for meat and poultry. So rather than having it be duplicative and potentially confusing, what we're proposing is taking meat and poultry and dairy out of the warehouse because they can be regulated in already existing programs, and just keeping eggs and produce in this single category. Eggs are already in this category, so you already need it. Fruit is already in that category. There is one substantive change in that we recommend that you have the requirement for produce instead of fruit, and produce is both fruit and vegetables. And the reason is the food safety considerations are the same for both fruit and vegetables. We think our best estimate is there's potentially up to four different vendors in the state right now that don't already have a license that might need one. If because of the 1,000 pounds of vegetables, it's $125 annual license fee, and we're not even sure that anybody would need it that doesn't already have it. But because, God bless you, you never know exactly what you don't know. If we don't already have a license, we're not in there. But most people who have 1,000 pounds of fruit they're already licensed, so we don't think it's many more. But that is a substantive change. I did hear you talking a little bit. I listened, I sort of half listened, sorry, to Michael present yesterday, and I know there was some questions about the revenue changes. I think they'll be negligible, if any. The dairy fee that already exists for a milk handler, it's not $50. It's $50 for an initial fee, plus there's an additional fee depending on how much you process per day. So the minimum, I think, is 110 already for milk handlers. Also, because we already license milk handlers, we've been trying to not dually license them already. So if you're a milk handler and you're storing milk, we have not made you get a warehouse license as well, as long as you're buying and selling milk. So this is really trying to clean that up. So we could obviously look into exactly what I think this would be incredibly negligible. And in terms of the meat license, right now it's kind of backwards. If you have under 1,000 pounds of meat in storage, you already need a license, but it's $150 for that. If you go up to 1,000 pounds, you go to this different public warehouse category and the fee is less, $125. So
They're all public warehouses.
yes, this would eliminate that. And there was some mention of there's a retail fee that's part of this language. It's not the retail fee that would be effective. There's a separate category for public warehouse. So they pay $150 right now, under 1,000 pounds. They would continue to do that. There would never be any change. If you get over 1,000 pounds, you just stay at $150 a year. And it's also the two different licensing has different registration periods. One's in January and one's in April. So right now, if you go above and if you're near that 1,000 pounds and you go above and below, it's kind of an administrative nightmare to work that out. So this time you store meat for a fee, you get the same license, public warehouse operator, it's $150. That doesn't change.
Okay.
So there's a lot of language, but the impetus behind it is pretty simple. I think we're up to section 7.
Yep.
Livestock dealers. So there's there's two things happening here. One is just to clarify what a livestock dealer is. What we're asking you to do would not change anything about how we implement the program. Right now, there's three different categories of licenses. There's a livestock dealer, there's a packer, and a transporter. That stays exactly the same. That's how we've always done it. We'll continue to do it that way. However, right now, packers and transporters are defined by the term livestock dealer. So it says if you're a livestock dealer, then there's other conditions for being a transporter or packer. You never want to define a term. You never want to use the same definition to define different terms. Because then if you say you're a livestock dealer, but you can't buy or sell cattle, it doesn't make any sense. So people get hung up on that sometimes. They don't know what licenses they need. They're not sure which category they fall in. So we're just trying to clarify that to make it very clear that a transporter is different than a livestock dealer. So let's not say a livestock dealer who doesn't buy and sell cattle, because that doesn't make any sense. Right. So we'll just make it, if you only transport cattle, you're a transporter. And then also just clarifying the language to say that you may need more than one license depending on exactly what you do, but you only need the specific license that applies to you. So that's not changing anything in practice, but it's just making it easier for people to understand what they may or may not need. The animal definitions are a lot more complicated. All we're trying to do is we have three different chapters that deal with animal movement. One of them is this livestock dealer section. Another one is chapter 1 and 2 in Title 6 that deals with contagious animal diseases and trying to make sure that they don't spread. And then chapter 107 in Title 6 deals with, it's also an animal health chapter, and it's really about the import and export of animals and trying to make sure that we're not importing diseases into the state or exporting diseases to other states. So those three chapters use slightly different definitions of animals. And so we're trying to blend those together so that they're saying the same things throughout the different chapters. We also have some references to the slaughter definitions, which aren't really relevant to when you're talking about animal health and movement. So we're just trying to streamline this. The tricky part is there's a line between a domestic animal and a wild animal. And wild animals are regulated by Fish and Wildlife and ANR, and we regulate domestic animals, most domestic animals, at least farm animals. And so the reason on a couple different times we define domestic animal and that it's already defined, and we ask you to clarify it. But because every time you make a list, you almost invariably leave out something. So in two of the definitions in here, one of them is for livestock and the other one is for domestic animal. We propose that you give the secretary discretion to determine what a domestic animal is. First, when it's livestock, and second, just when it's domestic animal, so that if something new comes along, as an example, water buffalo is listed in one definition, but on another one. If a livestock dealer is going to be moving water buffalo, and it is something that should be treated as livestock, just giving us the discretion to say you have to follow these same rules for that different type of animal. It's not perfect, but it makes sense to have enough discretion so that if you can never list everything, it's always going to be a little bit different. So just asking for that. And because of that line between domestic and wild animal, this was a Fish and Wildlife's request. We consulted with them about all these language changes and they're fine with them. But because there is that line between, I think Michael Grady talked about maintenance and how that could be a wild animal or it could be a domestic animal. Rather than us just unilaterally going in and declaring something, we recommend that you put in the statutory language a requirement that we consult with Fish and Wildlife before declaring something to be a domestic animal, so we can at least understand what they're thinking about it before we make a judgment.
So is Commissioner Herrick involved in any of these conversations, or you just put the clarifying language in that they would be consulted with?
I know our program staff were talking with their program staff, and then at the end, I checked in with their general counsel, Catherine Gessing, just to make sure that their agency was fine with it. I don't know for sure whether Commissioner Herrick was consulted about this, but
the staff,
his agency was, right. And they were comfortable with it. It's not easy to draw all the lines. And so we thought the consultation was good, because we always want to be on the same, and it's never great when the state is not on the same page with itself. Unfortunately, it has been known to happen. So the deer, and also the deer language, Fish and Wildlife is understandably very concerned about deer imports because of chronic wasting disease. And so over time, there's different kinds of deer that have been imported into the state, but instead of listing each type of deer, it makes sense to just call them domestic deer. Right, they're farm raised deer, but it's never going to be white-tailed deer, and it's never going to be those. And so rather than listing out 3 different kinds that are actually, there's another kind that's now being farmed in Vermont, just make that clear.
Very good.
So the mosquito, so I think this brings us to the section 12, the mosquito language. This is all just clearing things up. The only, I did hear a question about why we're taking out consultation with the Agricultural Innovation Board. There's a provision in the mosquito language right now that suggests that we should consult with the Ag Innovation Board before issuing permits. Some of you at least will remember that there used to be the Pesticide Advisory Council, which was effectively replaced by the Ag Innovation Board.
Sure.
When that happened, all of the language that referenced the Pesticide Advisory Council was replaced with the Ag Innovation Board. But the Ag Innovation Board's charges are just different than the Pesticide Advisory Council. And the Ag Innovation Board is not charged with mosquito control, doesn't have expertise for mosquito control. So I think it was just an oversight at the time, and we're just recommending that it come out because if they have a long list of important duties, and really doesn't seem to make sense to ask them about mosquito permits. The other languages are just really just technical. Some of it is gender neutral, cleaning up making language gender neutral. There's a practice of oiling that's no longer used, so we're changing that. There's a bit about using the word management, larval management instead of control, because it's more in line with the overarching desire to get these mosquito districts using integrated pest management practices. So it's just a better way of stating that. There's also a requirement that in one section about, excuse me, we changed the language from biological larvicides or pupicides, to a properly registered mosquito control pesticide, because that's what we actually do. And so it just makes the language clearer and more enforceable. I think you've all met Steve Guinell, who's the new head of the farm division. He was in Florida agriculture for years.
Oh, right, yeah.
So he just has a tremendous knowledge of mosquito issues because they obviously have many. And so he looked through the language and just thought that all of these clarifications would be helpful to making sure that we can be as transparent as possible. There's a couple other things about calling somebody a mosquito engineer that kind of hard to hire a mosquito engineer since they don't exist.
You don't exist?
Well, maybe.
I could do, be the first.
I think that's.
You couldn't afford me.
I think that's the bulk of it. I don't know if anyone had any questions.
So you only had one small change in here.
Yes, I mean, we had shared this language before with Michael Grady, and I was just looking through it, and that was the thing I noticed that was.
So it's tough to move this because we'd have to have a new draft.
Yeah.
If we did that, then we can change it when it gets back.
I just want to ask one question on section 6.
Okay.
From your reading of this, Stephen, I realize you didn't get a chance to realize that there's only one sentence that's actually struck. If I'm remembering what Michael said yesterday, the VEDA folks wanted to be a little more flexible in terms of who they could help out financially. So on line 7 of section 16, it strikes that they have to be a resident, but the business itself has to be in the state. Is that correct?
Certainly I believe that it's the business, it's certainly the activity. They're not asking to loan money for out-of-state uses. It's just that if resident is a specific defined term, and if somebody lives in Massachusetts, was investing in a Vermont business and doing agriculture here, I think they just want to be able to loan that money. And when I understood it, when talking to Nancy Polima, says they have the ability to lend more than they're able to find customers right now. So they're trying to help generate more agricultural activity.
Yeah, would loosen loosen the money up and help a business that's here that employs people. Be,
Yeah.
Did you have a question?
No, I was gonna move draft 3.1 for introduction.
I still have a question if you don't.
Oh.
What?
I have a question if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
that'd be under discussion.
Okay, go ahead. So I'll second it.
No,
For
go
discussion.
ahead.
I see on page 8, for example, when the numbering changes, the numbers are stricken, the original numbers are stricken. Do you know why that didn't happen on page 18, or is that just an oversight that say line 9 is stricken and becomes number 1? Line 12 is stricken and becomes number 2, etc.
You're talking about page 18, the
Yes.
part, so yes, those numbers would be changed as well. That's a good catch.
Good catch. Agreed, yeah.
I do this for a living. I pick apart documents. Thank you.
You should get together with Representative Rice and the House Ag Committee.
Oh, is he?
He's always
you know
got
what?
something for me.
Somebody's got to, be this through. All right, thank you.
So you got that change, Irene?
Yeah, I'll mark it in case that doesn't come through on, I don't know what we're approving, whether we're approving this before our changes and then we're gonna do the changes
Yeah.
later.
Well,
I highly recommend
I
that.
think, the only reason I made the, motion for draft 3.1 is that
All we
we
have.
had another
It's all we
draft,
have,
before
right?
it's all we have, and we're gonna change this when it comes back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with voting on 3.1.
And we wanna get something introduced. before-
Yes, we do,
So we have a motion on the floor.
and I'm seconding it.
And Irene has seconded it. Is there any further discussion on getting this made into a committee bill and sent for the floor? If not, see, who's the floor?
Would you like to make a call the roll?
Yeah,
Senator Campion?
Yes.
Senator Collmore?
Yes.
Senator Westman?
Yes.
Senator Runner, yes. Senator Starr?
yes.
Okay, the vote passes 5-0.
Which version?
3.1.
3.1.
We don't have to get another draft before we get it out.
Yeah, and
It's
then
not complicated.
It just slow us up.
we'll save a branch off that tree.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, are there any other questions for Steve right now?
Thanks for your help.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you very much.
Stephen?
Thank you. I get the comfy chair, but not the vote.
We had a,
Yeah.
well, I guess you came in at the tail end of Anson's presentation.
I didn't see that.
Oh, none of it?
No. I did ask him when I saw him on the street if we were gonna keep our jobs or not, though.
He said he was okay with his.
Yeah. I covered. Yeah, he took the 2+2 money to use to give you guys a pay raise. Or at least to pay you minimum wage or.
He didn't tell me about that yet. I'll have to ask him. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you.
Steve.
You ready for us?
Yeah, I would have any other issues.
Oh,
today.
No, I think we're all set.
Good.
Thank you.
We'll,